Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Padavajikacharya Ashtotar Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Padavajikacharya Ashtotar Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavin Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 21st day of April 2026 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And according to my records, we are in chapter 2. Contents of the Gita summarized. Text 23 at the bottom of page 90. Okay. Nainam Chindanti Shastrani Nainam Dahati Pavakaha Nachainam kledayanti apo na shoshiyati marutaha nainam chindanti shastrani nainam dahati pavakaha nachainam kledayantiapo nashoshiyati marutaha nainam chindanti shastrani nainam dahati pavakaha nachainam kledayantiapo nashoshiyati marutaha nainam chindanti shastrani nainam dahati pavakaha nachainam kledayantiapo nashoshiyati marutaha. Prem Gopal. Nainam chindanti shastrani nainam dahati pavakaha nachainam kledayantiapo nashoshiyati marutaha. Tapas. Nainam chindanti shastrani nainam dahati pavakaha naklenam chedihantiapo nashoshiyati marutaha. Prabhu. Nainam chindanti shastrani nainam dahati pavakaha nachainam kledayantiapo nashoshiyati marutaha. Nainam chindanti shastrani nainam dahati pavakaha nachainam kledayantiapo nashoshiyati marutaha. Ladies. Nainam chindanti shastrani nainam dahati pavakaha nachainam kledayantiapo nashoshiyati marutaha. Anyone online? Nainam chindanti shastrani nainam dahati pavakaha nachainam kledayantiapo nashoshiyati marutaha. Hold on. Go ahead. Nainam chindanti shastrani nainam dahati pavakaha nachainam kledayantiapo nashoshiyati marutaha. Anyone online want to chant?
Nainam chindaya shastrani
Nainam chindanti shastrani
nainam dahati pavakaha
nainam dahati pavakaha
nachainam kledayantiapo
kledayantiapo
nashoshiyati marutaha.
nashoshiyati marutaha. That's it. Thank you, Chad.
Hare Krishna.
Na, never, enam, this soul, chindanti, can cut to pieces. Shastrani, weapons. Na, never, enam, this soul. Dahati, burns. Pavaka, fire. Na, never. Cha, also, enam, this soul. Kledayanti, moistens. Apaha, water. Na, never. Shoshiyati, dries. Marutaha, wind. Translation. Krishna says to Arjuna, the soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon, nor burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. Purport. All kinds of weapons, swords, flame weapons, rain weapons, tornado weapons, etc., are unable to kill the spirit soul. It appears that there were many kinds of weapons made of earth, water, air, ether, etc., in addition to the modern weapons of fire. Even the nuclear weapons of the modern age are classified as fire weapons, but formerly there were other weapons made of all different types of material elements. Fire weapons were counteracted by water weapons, which are now unknown to modern science. Nor do modern scientists have knowledge of tornado weapons. In any case, the soul can never be cut into pieces or otherwise annihilated by any kind of weapon. The Mayavadi cannot explain how the individual soul came into existence simply by ignorance and consequently became covered by the illusory energy. Nor was it ever possible to cut the individual souls from the original Supreme Soul. Rather, the individual souls are eternally separated parts of the Supreme Soul. Because they are atomic individual souls, eternally Sanatan, they are prone to be covered by the illusory energy, and thus they become separated from the association of the Supreme Lord. Just as the sparks of a fire, although one in quality with the fire, excuse me, are prone to be extinguished when out of the fire. In the Varaha Purana, the living entities are described as separated parts and parcels of the Supreme. They are eternally so, according to the Bhagavad Gita also. So even after being liberated from illusion, the living entity remains a separate identity, as is evident from the teachings of the Lord to Arjuna. Arjuna became liberated by the knowledge received from Krishna, but he never became one with Krishna. Om Jnana Timrandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, the science of Krishna consciousness is divided into these three stages: Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. So, very appropriately, this whole chapter is dealing with mostly, almost exclusively, the nature of the soul, and here we're learning of its indestructibility by any means. But the general Sambandha, this is part of Sambandha. Sambandha means relationship. And it includes the relationship of, most importantly, the living entity to the Supreme Absolute Personality of Godhead. And again, we learn that we are particles. We're anksha. This word anksha is used again. Mamai vanksha jiva loka jiva buddha sanatana. We find in the 14th chapter, I believe it is, that these living entities are all my parts and parcels. Probably use that phrase all the time, fragmental parts. Meaning that we're just like a drop of water from the ocean, or like a ray of sunshine. You know, a ray of sunshine has a little bit of heat and a little bit of light, you see. The sun has infinite heat and light, because it's one in nature, but much different in quantity. And so similarly, we are one in quality with Krishna, but we're far different in quantity, nearly, obviously. Krishna has these opulences in full. Prabhupada, he's stretching the English language. The English language is changing because of Prabhupada. An opulence. Opulence means wealth. You know, he has much opulence. But Prabhupada made it an opulence. You have the opulence of beauty, or you have the opulence of wealth, you know, like that. So why not? We go with that language. So we have a little bit of opulence, a little bit of beauty, a little bit of wealth, a little bit, sometimes not so much. What do we got? Aishwaryasya samargasya viryasya, strength. See, physical strength, mental strength, charismatic strength, whatever it may be. Right? But we have it in minute quantity, and it's very fleeting. We get, you know, old and we lose strength, we lose beauty, you know. Also, fame is one. Krishna is the most famous. Maybe not everyone knows his name, but everyone has heard about God, even if they don't believe in God. So he's world, you know, infinitely famous. So you get some yashashak shriya jnana, knowledge. Somehow or other, when I read the Bhagavad Gita, I came across that verse. How's it go? I forget how the Sanskrit goes, but I know everything in the past, everything in the present, and everything in the future that's going to be. You know it. Anyway, it's a famous verse. And somehow, everything. Can you imagine knowing everything just in the present, or everything that's going on in this room? How many particles of paint you use? Everything that we're thinking or ever thought, he knows past, present, and future. That omniscience is very inconceivable to me, So we're part and parcel of Krishna. We don't know everything, but we can know a little bit about what's going on now and stuff like that. So, but one thing that we do share with Krishna is we're indestructible. As we learned in text 20, Arjo, Nitya Shashvato Yam Purano, right? Nitya means eternal. We were never born. Nijayate Mriyate Vakadachan Nayam Bhutva Bhavitava Nabuya. Arjo, Nitya Shashvato Yam Purano Nahanyate Hanyamane Shirere. That Nahanyate, he is not slain when the body is slain. So he's never slain. We learned that, we cannot be cut into pieces by any weapon, burned, moistened by fire, withered by the wind, or disintegrated or anything. So that's a very important point. We ourselves are eternal. We as souls never took birth. We were never created. We're as eternal as Krishna. And we will never be destroyed. But because we have identified ourselves with this body, we feel that we're subject to all those things. And that's one of the reasons why material life is so full of anxiety, as opposed to Vaikuntha life, which means very much no anxiety. Because we're always threatened with annihilation. I remember as a child, there's vivid memories. I grew up in the 50s and 60s, and the end of the war, which was characterized by those explosions, those atom bombs. I've seen pictures on the TV, little black and white TVs, and it's just, it's frightening, And it was something visualizing what if those bombs come over, And I remember we'd go down in our little basement, and we had a little, I forget what they call them, but, if the bombs come, you can stay down here and there'll be some food for you, like that. What is it? Not bunkers. Yeah, they weren't bombshells, but they were little signs, and the understanding that there was some emergency food in there, and things like that. There was some attempt to give assurance that you weren't completely doomed if the sirens go off. You'll run down in the basement like that. But it's all foolish, because one way or another we're doomed. It may not come in the form of a bomb, but it'll come as old age and disease or accident, whatever it may be. So the nature of the body is very much perishable and subject to destruction, old age, disease, and death. But here we see the soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon. Now, why does he say that? Because we're on a battlefield. The whole thing is that Arjuna is afraid that his grandfather Bhishma and his teacher Dronacharya and so many others who he had affection for and relation with, that not only will they be killed, but he'll be instrumental in their death. And that just is inconceivable to him. He's a kind Vaishnava at heart. And so this is his dilemma, and he becomes paralyzed. And in that paralysis of will, which is devastating for a warrior, he takes shelter of Krishna as Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now I am your disciple. We're not going to speak as friends. Now, lay it on me. I'm ready. And right away he chastises him for this very thing. You're lamenting for what's not worthy of grief. Ashocchana vashocchastram. Speaking words like a pundit, but you're no pundit, because the pundits, real wise people don't know that it's not lamentable, that there's really no death for the soul. So that's the whole theme here, and is emphasizing it in a way pertinent to being on a battlefield. That's what's going on here, and he's going to continue in that vein for a little bit more, and. Probably this second paragraph is significant, because Prabhupada is attacking the Maya bodies. It comes periodically throughout his books, and they cannot explain how the individual soul came into existence simply by ignorance and consequently became covered by the illusory energy. In other words, what he's saying is that their explanation doesn't make any sense. They try to explain that this is how the soul came into existence, but the soul doesn't come into existence. That's what Krishna says. Aja, we're unborn, we're eternal. Nor was it ever possible to cut the individual. This is another version of who they are. That the original Supreme Soul is cut, and then that's the living entities. Little pieces are cut off. But no, that the original Soul is ever existing and complete in Himself, Krishna. It's not like that. We are eternally these little particles of soul, with Krishna's nature, and our perfection will be to understand our eternal relationship with the Lord and be reinstated in it. That's really what mukti is, according to Bhagavatam. There's this one in the second chapter. There's kind of a table of contents. I think in the 10th chapter of the second canto, listing all the 10 subject matters of the Bhagavad Gita, and one of them is mukti, and there are definitions given for each of them. So the famous verse: Muktir hitva anyata rupam swarupena vyavastitihi. You see, so this is a one-liner. So here's what mukti means: mukti hitva, giving up, anyata rupam, other forms. All these different forms that we've taken now we're in human form. Even in this human body, we have so many forms. So our material forms are constantly changing. So you give up all that change, you see, and be situated in our swarup, the actual spiritual form of the soul, which includes our understanding our relation with Krishna, our form in that relationship. It may be a young boy who's a friend of Krishna, maybe an elder, a gopi or gopa, But to understand our original form, it could be a cow. Cows are fully as conscious as the human beings there. So is the water, the trees, everything is fully conscious. Pretty amazing to think of it that way. It's the truth. So to understand that relationship, live in that relationship, and reawaken that, and go home back to Godhead, which is one of the spiritual planet, Goloka Vrindavan, maybe Vaikuntha, and resume our long-lost relationship with God, eternal relationship. That's really the goal. And it's based on, the real thing, which is the love for Krishna, for God. And even if we're not situated in the spiritual world, that we can still have that love. Lord Chaitanya demonstrated it on this planet. And his sampradaya is filled with devotees who are on that level. And they live, they seem like they're walking and living in the same place as everyone else. They're really in a different place. Their consciousness is living it differently, you see. And that's why they're so tolerant and courageous, Think of Prahlad, think of Prabhupada, undertaking the trip to come here. It was as courageous as someone who's going to Africa, to go to the wild jungles. Prabhupada to come to the Lower East Side of Manhattan. Believe me, I lived in that jungle. What do they call it? Asphalt jungle. There's a movie like that. Yeah, but for the sake of the service to Krishna and for the sake of trying to lift up as many souls as possible from ignorance and relieve the misery, this is what he did, and this is why he's such a wonderful, amazing personality, Srila Prabhupada. So he's teaching us producing these books, having them printed and distributed and studied by his students was a major part of Srila Prabhupada's mission. So we're experiencing that now. Okay, did we read 23? Okay, so we'll go on for 24. It's similar there. He repeats some and then adds some more new information. Achejo yam madahyo yam aklenyo shosha evacha nitya sarvakatakstanu achaloyang sanatanaha. The individual soul is unbreakable and insoluble, and can be neither burned nor dried. He is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. Now, present everywhere means that there are souls everywhere, not that we ourselves. Each individual soul is everywhere. Purport. All these qualifications of the atomic soul definitely prove that the individual soul is eternally the atomic particle of the spirit whole, and he remains the same atom eternally without change. The theory of monism is very difficult to apply in this case because the individual soul is never expected to become one homogeneously. After liberation from material contamination, the atomic soul may prefer to remain as a spiritual spark in the effulgent rays of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the intelligent souls enter into the spiritual planets to associate with the Personality of Godhead. The word sarvagata, all-pervading, is significant because there is no doubt that living entities are all over God's creation. And once again, just to reiterate, it's not meaning that each individual soul is all-pervading, obviously. It means that there are souls everywhere. They live on the land, in the water, in the air, within the earth, and even within fire. The belief that they are sterilized in fire is not acceptable because it is clearly stated here that the soul cannot be burned by fire. Therefore, there is no doubt that there are living entities also in the sun planet with suitable bodies to live there. If the sun globe is uninhabited, then the word sarvagata, living everywhere, becomes meaningless. It's also meaningless that Krishna spoke to the sun god. In the 4th chapter, he's going to say, I taught this to the sun god. So how did that happen? So that's pretty amazing information, that there are souls everywhere, and that we should always remember how fortunate we are to be souls in human bodies, because only the human beings can understand this science and can, with that understanding, completely revolutionize the way that they are thinking of themselves in relation to this world and with relation to other living beings and everything. The intelligence of the human being is the deciding factor in getting out of this world, because there's no animals, the plants. What can they do? They can't understand anything. They're just doomed, if you will, to live out their lives and then move up gradually up till they become human beings. And then this verse kicks in. Labdva sudurlamamidam bahusambhavande manushyam artadam anityam apiha dhira turnam yateta napateta namityayava nikshayasaya vishayakarusa taksat. I don't know if you probably heard that one before. I'll go through it again. It's a very important verse. I think Krishna speaks it in the 11th canto. It may be part of the Bhagavad Gita. I know it's the 11th canto. So first with Labdva, you have attained. Sudurlabham, the rare, extremely rare. Sudurlabham, idam bahusambhavante manusham. Same word, manusham is human. You have attained this very rare, after many, many births, you have attained this rare human form of life. And what is the value? Artadam. Artadam means in this human form alone, you can attain the real goal of your existence, which is the return back to God. Artadam, but like all forms, anityam, it's not permanent. There's an expiration in every one of our bodies here. Anityam, so one has to be dhira. It's a key word. We've had the word dhira. Dehinosmin yata dehi komadam yom tata dehasastad dhiras tato namuyati. That we're all transmigrating, right? We transmigrated. I assume we've all been 8 years old. Has anyone not been 8 years old before? And probably we can remember something, a little something about those days, right? So we were definitely conscious beings in our body. And then we became 9, 10, 11, and wherever we are now. And each time we're going through so many different experiences, right? Body is changing, mind is changing, intellect is changing. Everything's changing but the soul. The soul is as it is, that conscious living being. So then comes, the expiration of this body, called death. At that point, if one is truly Krishna conscious, you're dhira. You're facing it with equanimity. Because it's just like, as Krishna says in that famous analogy, Basangsi Jirna, and yet it's like taking off some old clothes. Taking off some old clothes, and then you put on another set. So what's the lament, you see? So one has to be dhira. It means sober-minded and really, philosophical. So therefore, he says, your body is temporary, but you have a great chance now. So then listen to he says, listen to the last 2 lines. Now I'm going to tell you what to do. Be dhira, sober-minded. What should I do? Turnam yateta. Immediately start striving. Yata, the word yati is something used as a sannyasi. because they're striving, they're trying to get perfection and self-realization. So yateta is a verb that means to strive in the right direction under the proper instruction. And don't waste time. Turna means don't delay. Should I? Maybe not, I think. Should I go to the temple? Nah, let me go to the bar. No. Go to the temple. Use your energy, your time. As long as you're still alive and your body hasn't fallen down and died, that's it. What should you strive for? Nikshayasa. The same thing Arjuna was asking Krishna to instruct him. How please instruct him for certain about my shreya, my ultimate good. Not my temporary good that will satisfy my senses, but my ultimate good for the soul. So strive for the nikshayasa, means the ultimate nikshayasa. After all, in all these other bodies you've been enjoying your senses, vishaya, sense gratification, and look where it's gotten you. In other words, don't waste your time with that. You're done with that now. And of course, you have to take instruction from the Shastra, from the Guru, from the sadhus, and in this way, strengthen your intelligence and go for it. The path of bhakti, the marga. That's the whole idea. So, where are we? We did 24 already, right? Okay, so basically he's reiterating this previous verse. Then he goes on. Avyakto yam achinto yam avikaryo yam uchate tasmad evam vididvainam nanushochitamarhasi. It is said that the soul is invisible, inconceivable, and immutable. Knowing this, you should not grieve for the body. Purport. As described previously, the magnitude of the soul is so small for our material calculation that he cannot be seen even by the most powerful microscope. Therefore, he is invisible. As far as the soul's existence is concerned, no one can establish his existence experimentally beyond the proof of Shruti or Vedic wisdom. We have to accept this truth because there is no other source of understanding the existence of the soul, although it is a fact by perception. There are many things we have to accept solely on the grounds of superior authority. No one can deny the existence of his father based upon the authority of his mother. Now, whenever Prabhupada talks about this, I just said, the paternal test, the genetic test that they developed was after, I think that was in the 80s. It wasn't existing at this time. But there is the other authority. But it's basically, the point here. No one can deny, there is no source of understanding the identity of the father except by the authority of the mother. Okay. Similarly, there is no source of understanding the soul except by studying the Vedas. In other words, the soul is inconceivable by human experimental knowledge. The soul is consciousness and conscious. That also is the statement of the Vedas, and we have to accept that. Unlike the bodily changes, there is no change in the soul. As eternally unchangeable, the soul remains atomic in comparison to the infinite Supreme Soul. The Supreme Soul is infinite, and the atomic soul is infinitesimal. Therefore, the infinitesimal soul, being unchangeable, can never become equal to the infinite soul or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This concept is repeated in the Vedas in different ways just to confirm the stability of the conception of the soul. Repetition of something is necessary in order that we understand the matter thoroughly without error. And as repeat Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, until we get it right and we're chanting in pure love of God, So that repetition is part of it. So this is, this is Bhagavad Gita. I've been through this Bhagavad Gita in these classes. I think this is, fourth, fifth time going through. Never gets old. It's always worthwhile reiterating it because the tendency is to forget and to allow the material, energy to enter in. But if you're constantly reiterating this and trying to live according to it, then it becomes second nature. Okay, invisible, inconceivable, immutable. So all of these qualities of the soul as opposed to the body, which is all of those things. Atachayanam nitya jatam nityam va manyase mritam tatapi tvam mahabaho nainam shochitamarhasi. So you see, he's ending these verses with the same words practically. He says, therefore don't lament, don't lament. If, however, you think that the soul or the symptoms of life will always be born and die forever, you still have no reason to lament, Almighty Armed One. Purport. There is always a class of philosophers, almost akin to the Buddhists, who do not believe in the separate existence of the soul beyond the body. When Lord Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita, it appears that such philosophers existed, and they were known as the Lokayatakas and the Vaibhashikas. Such philosophers maintain that life symptoms take place at a certain mature condition of material combination. The modern material scientists and materialist philosophers also think similarly. According to them, the body is a combination of physical elements, and at a certain stage, the life symptoms develop by interaction of the physical and chemical elements. The science of anthropology is based on this philosophy. Currently, many pseudo-religions, now becoming fashionable in America, are also adhering to this philosophy, as are the nihilistic, non-devotional Buddhist sects. Now, just a little note of editing, because this last sentence here seems to have been, there's a good chance that it was written by the editor, not by Prabhupada. This whole deal about the nihilistic, non-devotional Buddhist sects, apparently they don't accept that. And anyway, just to take that with a grain of salt, that last sentence there. It's true that many pseudo-religions are becoming fashionable in America, and they may or may not be, embracing this idea that life arises from matter. That's the whole business here. Even if Arjuna did not believe in the existence of the soul, as in the Vaibhashika philosophy, there would still have been no cause for lamentation. No one laments the loss of a certain bulk of chemicals and stops discharging his prescribed duty. On the other hand, in modern science and scientific warfare, so many tons of chemicals are wasted for achieving victory over the enemy. According to the Vaibhashika philosophy, the so-called soul, or Atma, vanishes along with the deterioration of the body. So in any case, whether Arjuna accepted the Vedic conclusion that there is an atomic soul, or he did not believe in the existence of the soul, he had no reason to lament. According to this theory, since there are so many living entities generating out of matter every moment, and so many of them are being vanquished every moment, there's no need to grieve for such incidents. If there were no rebirth for the soul, Arjuna had no reason to be afraid of being affected by sinful reactions due to his killing his grandfather and teacher. But at the same time, Krishna sarcastically addressed Arjuna as Mahabahu, mighty armed, because he, Krishna at least, did not accept the theory of the Vaibhashikas, which leaves aside the Vedic wisdom. As a Kshatriya, Arjuna belonged to the Vedic culture, and it behooved him to continue to follow its principles. So all of this is kind of in terms of Krishna's trying to get Arjuna to cast away his lamentation and fight. You see, fight with complete enthusiasm, and that's Krishna's ultimate goal here. But in the process of doing that, he's giving us so much essential information about the soul, who we are, and how we should also fight against the illusion of being the body, and fight to control the senses and develop Krishna consciousness in such a way that becomes second nature, which is our real nature. All right, continuing in the same vein. Jatasa hi dhruva mityur dhruvam janma matasya cha tasmat apadiharyate natvang shochitamarhasi. Now, before we go into the translation, just notice how all these verses are ending in the same way. Therefore don't lament, therefore don't lament, therefore don't lament. Did you see that? 25, 26, practically the same language is used. One who has taken birth is sure to die, and after death one is sure to take birth again. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. Purport. One has to take birth according to one's activities of life, and after finishing one term of activities, one has to die to take birth for the next. In this way, one is going through one cycle of birth and death after another without liberation. This cycle of birth and death does not, however, support unnecessary murder, slaughter, and war. But at the same time, violence and war are inevitable factors in human society for keeping law and order. The Battle of Kurukshetra, being the will of the Supreme, was an inevitable event. and to fight for the right cause is the duty of a Kshatriya. Since Arjuna would be discharging his proper duty, why should he be afraid of or aggrieved at the death of his relatives? He did not deserve to break the law, therefore becoming subjected to the reactions of sinful acts of which he was so afraid. By avoiding the discharge of his proper duty, he would not be able to stop the death of his relatives, and he would be degraded due to his selection of the wrong path of action. You see that? So in other words, it's a completely logical thing for him to cast away this reluctance to fight and to actually fight in the battle. First of all, he's not going to die. No one's going to die. You know, they've changed their bodies, but he's not going to, but you know, and he'll be fighting for the righteous battle. You know, he's got Krishna on his side. He specifically took him on his side rather than his army, as you know the story. And so everything is auspicious if Arjuna just fights. Even if he is so-called killed, he still did the right thing, and he's in good shape. But there's no way he's going to be killed because it's by the side of Krishna. Krishna wants him to succeed. So if Arjuna accepts, and of course he does, accepts Krishna's words as true, then his whole argument for not fighting is destroyed. That's the whole idea. Okay, one more, maybe a few more. Avyaktadini bhutani vyaktamudhyani bharata avyakta nidhananyeva tattvaka paridevana. All created beings are unmanifest in their beginning, manifest in their interim state, and unmanifest again when annihilated. So what need is there for lamentation? Purport. Accepting that there are two classes of philosophers, one believing in the existence of the soul, and the other not believing in the existence of the soul, there is no cause for lamentation in either case. Non-believers in the existence of the soul are called atheists by followers of the Vedic wisdom. Yet even if, for argument's sake, we accept this atheistic theory, there is still no cause for lamentation. Apart from the separate existence of the soul, the material elements remain unmanifested before creation. From this subtle state of non-manifestation comes manifestation, just as from ether, air is generated, from air, fire is generated, from fire, water is generated, and from water, earth becomes manifested. From the earth, many varieties of manifestations take place. Take, for example, a big skyscraper manifested from the earth. When it is dismantled, the manifestation becomes again unmanifested and remains as atoms in the ultimate stage. The law of conservation of energy remains, but in course of time things are manifested and unmanifested. That is the difference. Then what cause is there for lamentation either in the stage of manifestation or in unmanifestation? Somehow or other, even in the unmanifested stage, things are not lost. Both at the beginning and in the end, all elements remain unmanifested, and only in the middle are they manifested, and this does not make any real material difference. And if we accept the Vedic conclusion as stated in the Bhagavad Gita that these material bodies are perishable in due course of time, antabantahi me deha, but that the soul is eternal, nitya sokta sharirinaha, then we must remember always that the body is like a dress. Therefore, why lament the change of a dress? Dress meaning, clothes. The material body has no factual existence in relation to the eternal soul. It is something like a dream. In a dream, we may think of flying in the sky or sitting on a chariot as a king, but when we wake up, we can see that we are neither in the sky nor seated on the chariot. The Vedic wisdom encourages self-realization on the basis of the non-existence of the material body. Therefore, in either case, whether one believes in the existence of the soul or one does not believe in the existence of the soul, there is no cause for lamentation for loss of the body. So, non-existence of the material body. Well, does anyone feel like they don't exist here? No. The body exists, but it's temporary, and in that sense, it's non-existence. There's sat and asat. Asat means temporary, but compared to the eternal soul, the eternal Lord, and all these, it doesn't exist, in that sense. But again, we have to remember, yes, but it's temporary. With our temporary time that we have in this body, we have choices to make, which we'll make intelligently if we are familiar with the knowledge and we have faith in the truth of this. Because the whole point of this is that it's for anyone, but to speak of Arjuna, calculations of what is good and what not good and what to do and not to on the basis of the body or body relationships are self-defeating. They don't get you anywhere, you see. It means you're committed to calculation on the basis of what is non-existent, meaning temporary. So it all comes to nothing in the end, you see. But devotees, you know, even if they don't go back to Godhead, didn't waste their time. Text number 40. Coming up. Such an important verse. In this activity, this effort of Krishna consciousness, bhakti yoga, there's no loss or diminution. Just contrast that with every other thing. Maybe you're a banker, you know, and you're making all this money, you know, but in the end it all comes to zero because you're dead and the money stays here. You lose everything. But in Krishna consciousness, you don't lose anything because it's spiritual value that you've got. So what are you taking with you? Now that'll become clear in the 15th chapter. You're taking your consciousness with you. You know, the subtle body is not killed when the gross body dies. Subtle body is the mind, intelligence, and ego. So you've made a certain amount of progress in Krishna consciousness. You're not pure yet, but then you'll be guided to take birth in a body in which you can continue that. Whereas if, you know, no matter what you gain materially, it's lost. And good chances are, if you know, make $1 million, you had to like cheat someone and who knows what you did, and then you committed sins, and then you go down. You may not even get a human body. So just compare the difference. If you really want to consider what's valuable, how to valuably spend your time, we're back to the verse. Turnam yateta. Without wasting time, strive for the ultimate good through practicing bhakti yoga under the guidance of Guru, Shastra, and Sadhu. You see, we're getting our knowledge here from both. We're getting it from Krishna directly through the Shastra, and from Prabhupada through his purports. So if we actually take the instruction seriously and start acting on it, then our life becomes auspicious. And we're following the injunctions of this verse. Without wasting time, we strive, as long as we're alive, you know, for the ultimate good. And then the last part of the verse is great. Because after all, in all those other bodies you've had, enjoying varieties of sense gratification, Vishaya, Kolasarva Taksha, what did you gain? What did it bring you? To this state of being, you know, confused about what you're going to do and facing old age, disease, and death. So you didn't get anything. All you did was prolong your misery and anxiety. But with Krishna conscious effort, you can actually get something, you know, tangible, even though you can't see it. But it's your consciousness that will take you to a situation in your next life where you'll continue on the path of bhakti. And who knows, you may even see. And that may be this very life that we have, and what we did in our last life. Now, you know, so we should cash in our chips. Again, my walk in the morning, there's the lottery inside. Sometimes I glance what it's up to, you know. $91 million. That's nothing. It was $999 million a few weeks ago. In other words, they didn't have room. It was over $1 billion. I just keep walking. I got the $1 billion right here. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. It's really like that, you know. I had my gambling days when I was 18, 19, you know. I lost. Thankfully, I quit forever. All right, if there are no questions, comments, good.
Hare Krishna. So you're saying that when the soul leaves the body, the consciousness goes with us in the next life. Yeah. And so does the consciousness go with us back home, back to Godhead when we finally achieve that destination?
Yeah. First of all, you know, it's not. What I said really is that, you know, the mind and intelligence and ego are not killed, and they kind of carry you to your next. That's the basis of your next body, your consciousness you developed, plus your karma, what you've done. That's the higher sources of things, you know. So the consciousness is always with us, you know, and it can be very rudimentary. It can be the consciousness of a tree or an ant or a dog, which is relatively advanced, you know, or a human being or even a demigod, whatever it may be. but the point is, if you've made some genuine progress in this life of remembrance of Krishna, of serving Krishna, and you got some bhakti points in the bank, then that'll bring you into a situation where you can continue to do that and continue to increase. It's all a question of how pure we can make ourselves. We can purify our heart by the chanting and so forth, and our senses and our consciousness. And then none of us is lost, and we're on our way back to Godhead. But it's up to us how much we want to strive to achieve the ultimate goal, which is very simply the pure love for Krishna, and no attraction for sense gratification or anything like that. And then Krishna will give us everything else if we actually have that. Just the business of like preparing bhoga, to offer to Krishna. What is the consciousness we have when we do that? And our sincerity in the prayers and the offering. That's what he's looking for. That's why he says what? Pattam pusham palam. This you probably learned this as a child, right? Pattam pusham palam toyam. Yome bhaktya priyachati tadaham bhaktupaditam ishnami payatatmana. So I think twice he mentions bhakti there, right? Pattam pusham palam toyam. Yome bhaktya priyachati. One who offers these things, a leaf, salad, whatever. Pattam pushpam, the flower, which can be, I think, grain, whatever. A flower can be on the altar, and of course fruit and water or any offerable liquid with bhakti, with devotion. I accept it. I accept an offering that's given in bhakti. He's really looking for the bhakti. He doesn't need the little bit of fruit and water, but he really hankers for our love. That's really what he wants. So these are all ways, the chanting of the holy name, the hearing of Bhagavad Gita, all these things of awakening our original and natural love for God. And that takes over everything. And that's why Lord Chaitanya, did you have a question too? Yes. Okay, go ahead. But you need a mic, because we have an audience out there. Hold on. You got it. Go ahead, Prabhu.
Okay. Thank you for taking my question.
Sure.
Prabhu, how would you explain clairvoyance and how some people can read prophecies or get messages like premonition or messages, or are able to foretell the future,
Sure.
like a modern day Nostradamus?
Yeah,
or, how is he able to?
This is in a category of like yogic powers. Like you can develop, amazing things of, these 8 ashtaka siddhis that you can develop. So it's just a question of, doing the proper exercise, mental exercise and so forth, and austerities to develop those powers. They're there, latent, and they can be developed. But they can easily be, divert you from the point of bhakti, because we're not looking to do that, although that is one of the legitimate powers you can develop, because that becomes like a possession. It's I want to have this power, and there's a verse. What is it? Bhukti mukti siddhi kami sakali shanta, Krishna bhakta nishkama ata eva shanta. So here's the category of things that mostly people that strive for. Bhukti means ordinary sense gratification, things that you can taste and hear and sense gratification. And then another one is mukti, which is interesting. That's liberation. And some of the Bhagavad Gita verses seem to say, yes, then you should try to get mukti, get rid of birth, old age, disease, and death. But if that's all you want, that ultimately is also a personal desire. That's also, you're not peaceful about it, because you strive and you're not really detached enough, and so you don't get it, so you're in anxiety. So you're not peaceful. And then siddhi is what you're talking about, the yogic siddhis. There's a way of getting them. You can find people who will teach you. You go perform the austerity. You got to go to the Himalayas or whatever you do. And you'll say, finally, yes, And one of the siddhis that they develop is being to be able to extend your lifetime. There's actually people in the Himalayas who are living there 300 years old by slowing down the respiration and doing all kinds of things, But they may not be closer to bhakti than the ordinary person on the street. because it's not based on love. Krishna's not looking for that, you know. So the point is that these are powers that can be developed, but we shouldn't be diverted by them. This verse says, those who want the siddhis, you're talking about the siddhis, they're not peaceful. Bhukti mukti siddhi kami sakali ashanta. But Krishna Bhakta Nishkama, they don't want anything for themselves. They simply want to serve Krishna's pleasure and to make others Krishna conscious, because they know that's what Krishna wants, you see? And their whole life is dedicated for that, and therefore they're peaceful. Whereas someone who is, I worked so hard, I meditated for all this, and I didn't get this proper siddhi, I was cheated, you know. But you never feel cheated in Krishna consciousness. If you're actually sincere, you know, you can feel the bliss. So yes, that's a bona fide thing, but we don't really work toward that in Krishna consciousness. All right, it's now
Thank you.
10 minutes
Krishna.
after. I'm going to leave a whole 5 minutes for poetry. And that's, Tapas has a question. You're just retrieving the mic. Okay. So, my little effort at writing English poetry grew out of my love of the Sanskrit poetry that is abundance in the Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita. And so here's a couple of verses that I put into English poetry, so you get a little poetic version of it. All right, my old favorite. Madodam madodam bapadasya vibho madodam madodam vadanam madodam madogandi madusmita metadoho madodam 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 madodam. Madodam means sweet. Sweet, sweet. Now this is, you can visualize beautiful form of Giridhari, which you'll see in less than 5 minutes. Sweet, sweet is my dear Lord's form, sweet is still his face so fair, but his honey-scented gentle smile is sweet beyond compare. Very easy to learn that verse. There's only like 3 or 4 different words in it. So much you can get from it. Let's see another one. Okay, this is a meditation on Krishna entering the forest of Vrindavan with his cowherd friends and the cows and playing the flute. And the gopis are watching him enter, you know, and I think they're uttering this verse. And then they have a whole song that they sing. It's called the Venu Gītā, chapter 21 of the 10th canto. So I took this verse, the first verse. Description: Barhapidam natabadavapu karnayo karnikaram Bimbran vasa kanakakapisham vaijayanting shamalam Arandran veno hadadasudihapuriyan gopa vrindaya Vrindaranyam sapadanamanam pravishad Gītā kirtihi. With lovely peacock plume upon his head, and fragrant flower placed upon each ear, he enters Braja's woods with graceful tread, a handsome dancing actor without peer. His golden yellow raiment brightly glows, his splendid garland reaches to his knees, and from his luscious lips the nectar flows, and fills his flute with charming melodies. As Krishna thus begins his blissful day, with cowherd friends who sing his glory sweet, he beautifies Vrindavan's forest way with fine impressions of his lotus feet. Okay, we have time for one more. Now this is a favorite. I think a lot of you have heard this one before. Some of you haven't. It's a verse glorifying the holy names of Radha and Krishna, which is what we chant when we chant Hare Krishna. Hare is the vocative form of Hara, which is a name for the goddess of fortune, or in this case, the supreme goddess of fortune, Srimati Radharani. And the name Krishna is, of course, addressing Krishna directly. And Rama can mean Balaram, or can be another form of name for Krishna, meaning he who is the source of all transcendental bliss. And here's the verse from Raghunath Das Goswami, then we'll adjourn. Oh my God. Okay. I'll just give you the English. An excellent fresh nectar drink with endless subtle tastes. Such is the name of Radha, by whom all 3 worlds are graced. Condensed milk that is wonderfully delicious, thick and sweet. Such is the name of Krishna, in whom all attractions meet. Now mix these drinks, O thirsty tongue, and add the cooling, fragrant spice of love, a prize the wise will try to buy at any price. And then at every moment drink this beverage most fine, and make my heart supremely blissful, peaceful, and divine. Hare Krishna. All glories to Prabhupada. So now we'll try it out. We'll chant.